Now turn to our top story, which is the situation with Iran. The CIA says its intelligence indicates that America's strikes did severely damage Iran's nuclear program. In a statement, Director John Ratcliffe explains a body of credible intelligence from a historically reliable and accurate source indicates, quote, several key Iranian nuclear facilities were destroyed and would have to be rebuilt over the course of years. This contradicts a leaked initial assessment from the Defense Intelligence Agency, which found that the bombings only set back Iran's program by several months. Three sources with knowledge of the matter tell NBC News that the agency also labeled its report as being low confidence. They categorize these things. It comes as the president and his administration have been outright dismissing the assessment, angrily doing so, calling it inconclusive and premature. Yesterday, during the NATO summit at The Hague, President Trump doubled down on his claim that America's bombs simply obliterated Tehran's nuclear capabilities.
As you know, last weekend, the United States successfully carried out a massive precision strike on Iran's nuclear enrichment facilities, and it was very, very successful. It was called obliteration. No other military on earth could have done it, and now this incredible exercise of American strength has paved the way for peace. The devastating U.S. strike on Fordo destroyed the site's critical infrastructure and rendered the enrichment facility totally inoperable. It was devastated.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is set to hold a news conference on America's strikes in Iran later this morning. And, Caddy, it has been vociferous objections from the administration the last 24 hours or so about that assessment from the DIA, with a lot of attacks on the news media, unfounded claims of bias or deep state conspiracy. The short answer is they're still assessing what's going on. We'll probably learn more later today.
Yeah, they're painting that press conference with Secretary Hegseth later this morning as a kind of defense of the pilots. Nobody is criticizing the pilots. They did an extraordinary job. Meanwhile, a classified Senate briefing regarding last weekend's airstrikes in Iran is set for today after it was postponed earlier this week. Two sources tell NBC News the White House is expected to send both Secretary of State Marco Rubio, CIA Director John Ratcliffe, and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, also General Dan Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, to brief senators. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, however, will not attend. A classified briefing for members of the House of Representatives is also set for tomorrow. Throughout the NATO summit, President Trump repeatedly said the U.S. strikes on Iran ended the war, but he also conceded that the fighting between Israel and Iran could start up again.
I dealt with both, and they're both tired, exhausted. They fought very, very hard and very viciously, very violently, and they were both satisfied to go home and get out. And can it start again? I guess someday it can. It could maybe start soon. I think a big telltale sign was when, as you know, Iran somewhat, by not much, violated the ceasefire. And Israel had the planes going out that morning, and there were a lot of them, 52 of them. And I said, you got to get them back. And they brought them back. They didn't do anything. They brought them back. It was very good. I thought it was amazing. We're going to talk to them next week with Iran. We may sign an agreement. I don't know. To me, I don't think it's that necessary. I mean, they had a war. They fought. Now they're going back to their world. I don't care if I have an agreement or not. The only thing we'd be asking for is what we were asking for before about we want no nuclear, but we destroyed the nuclear.
OK, Richard, can you pass that last comment for me? If the president says there's really no need for any kind of diplomatic negotiations now, no need for an agreement with Iran because we have destroyed their nuclear capabilities, but that is still actually under review. We don't have the final data on that. What do you make of what he just said?
Well, two things. First, on the destruction thing. There's obviously debate between the CIA and the DIA over what the damage was. That's, by the way, pretty traditional. Bomb damage assessment is much more art than science. The Iranians are obviously not going to allow people to get a good look. I actually think the bigger issue, Caddy, is what amount of enriched uranium, number of centrifuges were not housed in those three facilities. which obviously then survived the strike. So one has to assume that Iran has elements of a nuclear program that could be reconstituted if and when they chose. I think what the president's alluding to, some people are saying, well, now we have to have a new agreement with the Iranians. Diplomatically, that would arrange for inspections, place severe limits, maybe 100% limits on their nuclear program. I'm not sure that can be negotiated with the Iranian government. And I actually think we're facing a future where probably we either don't have a formal agreement on what Iran does in the nuclear realm, or even if we do have it, the Iranians will look for ways to work around it or not comply with it. Because my sense is that a lot of people in that country are going to come to the conclusion that the reason Israel and the United States attacked them the way they did is because Iran did not possess nuclear weapons. So I actually think there'll be a big push, not over the next couple of days, but over months and years to come, for Iran to secretly try to reconstitute its nuclear program. So I don't think whatever else happened the last couple of weeks, it didn't solve this problem. This problem is going to be with us down the road.
That idea of having the weapons as a deterrent, sort of the North Korea model, perhaps Iran will follow. So before